Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another special Safari Mack episode of Safari Mack's Conservation Conversation. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been over a month, and I tell you, I've sure missed you all, and I'm glad to see you all here with me today. For today's stories, I would just like to say they're brought to you by the Wildlife Conservation Network, which has been great in helping me select at least probably two special stories that I would like to share with you today. One about sea otters, and the other about the International Rhino Foundation. But as always, before we begin our today's little episode, if you're new to my channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Check out my Facebook page for content on conservation. And if you have a question about animals, or if there's something that you want to ask me about in terms of a conservation project, let's just say, be sure to send me an email, which you will always find the link to down in my description below. But if you're ready, I'm ready. We're going to get started. So, first, over on the west coast of America, the Pacific coast, we hang out with the sea otters. In other news, the Wildlife Conservation Network is announcing the launch of its newest wildlife initiative, the Sea Otter Fund. So this initiative marks the Wildlife Conservation Network's first marine fund dedicated to supporting the reintroduction of sea otters all along the U.S. Pacific coast. For if you remember in my sea otter episode back when we were exploring North America, they were once fairly common all along the Pacific coast, but sadly, hunting had reduced their populations to only a few pockets. But now, thanks to conservation, we're trying to reintroduce it. So as they continue to say, building on the important work from many others over decades, the Sea Otter Fund will help develop and implement innovative solutions for sea otter restoration while supporting the priorities of the coastal communities. So here you get to see how, while it's important to help wildlife, we're also needing to focus on the human aspect so that we can all learn to work together and that we can learn to coexist with one another. In other news, the International Rhino Foundation, or IRF for short, and the WCN are partnering to launch a very new wildlife leadership program focusing on entirely with rhino conservation practitioners. So, as they report, this transformative program, Rising Wildlife Leaders and Careers, will equip the local conservationists in the countries where rhinos live with the skills, mentorship, and career support they need to make the big, lasting impact. Over the next 3 years, selected participants will be receiving special individualized training, peer learning opportunities, and professional guidance to help bolster their leadership in terms of rhino conservation. And it's a major first step because, as we know, rhinos have had a very hard time in the past because many species of rhino have been poached to near extinction, all just for the value of this horn. And so, by helping these animals out, we can continue to support this ancient, prehistoric-looking mammal. And in addition, as I'm thinking about it, if you all can remember my very first conservation conversation episode where I touched base with you all about the plight of the northern white rhino, where there's only currently 2 females in existence, thanks to all the embryos that this great conservation project has produced, they are now hoping to eventually move on to the next stage where they're going to eventually implement these embryos into surrogate southern white rhino moms to where they give birth to a fully genetically viable northern white rhino. So with this fund and with the WCN and the IRF working together, that will be a really major big deal, especially for helping bring one subspecies of rhino back from the brink of near extinction. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid that's actually all the time I have today for this short episode. So, what will we cover next? Well, be sure to join me next time on June 29th for the next episode of Safari Mack's Conservation Conversation. But until then, this is Safari Mack. I'll see you all out there.